Thank you and good morning. It's really an honor to be here this morning and be able to share some thoughts and some perspectives. First, I just wanted to extend my sincere thanks to the CCD COE, really for your leadership and vision bringing together forums like this. It's, like you mentioned yesterday, Jaak, you're a small organization, but I would argue a bit of a sports buff. You hit well above your weight, if you will. So well done. It's great to see the caliber of talent you bring together each year. And so just keep up the tremendous work. And it's a topic of such importance to us all. It's good to see the whole team come together and be able to share perspectives. I know I speak for all of the conference participants. We also appreciate the hospitality of really the whole Estonian team here. I don't know, Jaak, you said that the weather was bad, but from my perspective, it's my first visit to Estonia, and we've had 3 days of really good weather, so you've got a long summer going on based on your comments yesterday, so well done, ordering up the good weather. So I'm pleased to really have the opportunity to share some perspectives on cooperating to strengthen cyber defenses. This is a topic that's important as it is timely. And so to be sure, strong cyber defenses are relevant to all of us because they can and do affect such things as military operations, economic development, national policy choices, and even our very notions of nation sovereignty. Towards this end, working together to improve national cyber defense mechanisms will strengthen regional stability and confidence and enable us to counter the influence of global competitors. The United States has long been committed to an open and reliable access to information. We believe in the United States that every nation's prosperity, liberty, and security depend upon it. The internet empowers us and enriches our lives by providing ever greater access to new knowledge, business, and services. In the U.S. military, computers, networks, information technologies, all types of systems are really involved in the ICT, are the underpinnings of our warfighting superiority. But the world is really changing and has been for some time. And as my counterpart from Japan highlighted, it's accelerating. The threats are accelerating at a dramatic pace. The arrival of the digital age has created tremendous challenges for the Department of Defense and the United States and our partners and allies. The open, transnational, and decentralized nature of the internet can also create significant vulnerabilities. We all depend on the cyberspace domain for nearly every essential civilian, commercial, and military function. Given this dependence, threats to our cyber defenses have the potential to be an urgent and unacceptable risk to any nation, its partners, and its allies. Today, we are engaged in a long-term strategic competition with aggressive revisionist powers. These bad actors are waging persistent campaigns in and through cyberspace to achieve asymmetric advantage. They steal technology. Many of the nations represented here, they steal technology, undermine our military advantages, threaten our critical infrastructure, disrupt our government and commerce, weaken our collective prosperity, and challenge our democratic processes. The scope, the pace, and the sophistication of the malicious cyber activity we're seeing around the world continues to rise. Although the consequences of any single intrusion or incident may be limited, in the aggregate, these coordinated malicious cyber campaigns form a strategic threat, where their objective is to win without waging war, operating below thresholds of our traditional response mechanisms or thresholds. These activities pose a long-term strategic risk to the United States, to our allies, and to our partners. Our fear is that in today's strategic environment, these state-sponsored campaigns of daily, malign cyber activity may divide and destabilize us. But with the challenge comes lots of opportunity. Our vision is to chart a new course for how our respective militaries and national governments confront these threats. Let me describe the approach we're taking in the United States to confront these challenges. The U.S. has recognized the long-term strategic competition that I described previously requires a more assertive, proactive approach, especially in cyberspace, coupled with a more comprehensive approach to integrating cyber capabilities with domestically in the United States, and most importantly, with our international partners. Towards this end, Secretary Mattis issued a new DoD cyber strategy last August, which was to guide the development of DoD cyber forces and strengthen our cyber defense and strategic deterrence posture. We understand that our systems must be cyber hardened, resilient, and secure, even in a cyber contested environment. Ultimately, our strategy is what we described as to defend forward, to see and understand imminent threats in cyberspace, to deter, disrupt, and defeat cyber threats that threaten the United States, our international partners, and this is best accomplished at their source before they reach the homeland, our homeland or our partners and allies' homeland. Our new strategy articulates DoD's military objectives for cyberspace in 4 key areas. First, we must ensure that our networks and systems, and when I say systems, I mean force structures such as aircraft, ships, submarines, land forces, etc., are cyber hardened, resilient, and secure against malicious cyber activity. In the end, our joint force must be able to execute its missions, both defensive and offensive, in and through a cyber-contested environment. Second, we must be prepared to defend our national critical infrastructure from cyber attacks, just as we do against threats from air, land, sea, and in the space domains. Cyberspace is not unique. The DoD plays a role, and we've been working very diligently to understand that role alongside our domestic departments and agencies, such as the Department of Homeland Security. Third, we must improve our ability to secure sensitive DoD information wherever it resides, whether that is DoD networks and systems or the contractors that make up our defense industrial base. That information really gives us a military strategic advantage in the future, and that's being put at risk, and I'll describe that in just a second. And lastly, which is really the bedrock of our strategy, we must strengthen our partnerships around the world when it comes to countering emerging cyber threats. We understand this is really a strategic force multiplier. So that's both with international partners, industry, and then domestically inside the country in the United States alongside of our domestic partners, our department and agencies. For generations, the Western world has relied on close partnerships to counter the strategic threats from our adversaries. In this digital era, we are turning to this foundational principle. I believe Secretary Mattis expressed it clearly as we were developing the cyber strategy, our DoD cyber strategy, when he shared a personal perspective. And that was in over 40 years of military service that included a long legacy of combat experience. General Mattis, or Secretary Mattis at the time, never once fought in a US-only formation. He emphasized that he always fought side by side with international partners in coalition formations. So this concept, as we began to think about it, really applies in cyberspace. It's at the heart of our DoD cyber strategy, and it's fully supported by Secretary Shanahan, who was instrumental. We saw him quite often as we were developing our DoD cyber strategy. So he fully endorses this concept as we were developing the cyber strategy. To maximize the potential of success when operating in this critical domain, the DoD cyber strategy that was published in 2018 clearly and strongly prioritizes expanding cyber cooperation with partners. To that end, we have renewed our focus over the last year to build and enhance our relationships with our international allies and partners, as well as industry and our U.S. interagency counterparts, such as the Department of Homeland Security and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI. Just as the cyberspace domain itself does not recognize territorial boundary lines, we understand that our efforts to strengthen our cyber defense must extend beyond the borders of the United States. We strongly desire to closely partner with international partners and allies, building on partner nation skills, resources, capabilities, and I think most valuable is perspectives. We believe this enhances our mutual cybersecurity posture, both here in the region, in Europe, and around the world. We are working to improve our own competence in and resources for building partner capacity in cyberspace. Traditionally, we've done a great job, I think, both in the force structure associated with combat operations, kinetic forces. This new security cooperation is a bit new for cyberspace, so we're working through that. Where necessary, we seek to reinforce existing information sharing mechanisms and develop new ones. We think this is foundational to our success. It is from a foundation of robust international information sharing relationships that we will increase our collective cyber defense posture. Additionally, the United States wants to improve how we train, exercise, and operate alongside partners in the region and on the world globally to improve our collective cyber capabilities. As part of broadening our coalition of close cyber partners, we will continue to advocate for our allies and partners to secure their domestic telecom networks and supply chains, similar to the direction that the Japanese have just articulated previously to this talk, by making informed decisions today to avoid mortgaging really their nation's security in the future. The DoD will also continue to work alongside our domestic and foreign partners to promote international commitments related to appropriate behavior in cyberspace, including the peacetime norms adopted by all nations in the United Nations. We also seek to develop and implement cyber confidence building measures, or CBMs. Above all, the U.S. government advocates for responsible state behavior in cyberspace during peacetime, so we also press our global partners to hold states that are acting irresponsibly in cyberspace accountable for their actions. And we see that as the baseline, as the norms of responsible state behavior in cyberspace that's been articulated by the United Nations. Consequently, along with international partners in this effort, we're working to enhance our combined ability to attribute, indict, demarche, sanction, or when appropriate, impose consequences against states or non-state actors that conduct malicious and destabilizing behavior in cyberspace, which are outside the accepted international norms of state behavior. If you think about deterrent structures, just traditional deterrent structures, we think they apply to some extent. It's a bit more challenging in cyberspace because there's so many different actors. The spectrum of conflict, if you will, both through peacetime into conflict, is a challenging environment. But when you think about deterrence by denial, good cybersecurity, or deterrence by consequences, which is what we're referencing here, or strategically communicating, all of them apply when it comes to strategic deterrence in cyberspace. We recognize that cyberspace is a man-made domain, and in many ways, private companies are on the front lines of nation-state competition in cyberspace. The theft of sensitive DoD information from our defense industrial-based partners is something that puts our future military technological advantage at risk. In recognition of this fact, DoD continues to work with industry and alongside our sister departments and agencies across the U.S. government to build and strengthen trusted relationships with private sector entities. Our focus is to implement world-class cybersecurity protections and to improve how we share cyber threat information, whether it be threats to our critical infrastructure, theft of intellectual property, or malign influence designed to destabilize domestic and international institutions. Likewise, we are also leveraging commercial cybersecurity practices and innovations in order to bring them into the U.S. government. It's a long-standing policy to include the Department of Defense. Many of the commercial standards and approaches for workforce training, certification, cybersecurity, and cyber defense serve as an ideal foundation for our military missions. Domestically, we've also focused on how our cyber forces operate alongside our interagency partners in the homeland in a supporting role. And this is new, because in the past there was a bit confusion as to whether the DoD would be involved in supporting defense and security of our critical infrastructure. We've now articulated that the DoD does have a role in a supporting mechanisms to the other departments and agencies. Like our traditional response to incidents such as natural disasters, terrorist attacks, or other physical attacks, DoD is collaborating with the Department of Homeland Security and other sector leads in order to secure and defend homeland from cyber threats, including cyber attacks on critical infrastructure systems. Similarly, we are issuing guidance to our National Guard personnel to support the use of defensive cyber capabilities for state cyberspace activities. We see this as an effective way to better leverage the unique cyber skills and knowledge of our citizen soldiers in the Guard to increase the resiliency of networks and systems at the state, city, and local community levels, while providing a strategic reserve of cybersecurity talent for the nation. All leaders should consider how they can best leverage their civilian talent to help protect their respective nations. We think this is a best practice in many ways. And Estonia is probably one of the leading nations in this regard in many ways. Each of our nations works diligently to defend against malicious and destabilizing activities in cyberspace. Unfortunately, the current reality is that our defenses may not be robust enough and are certainly not sufficiently integrated with or informed by international partners and allies. Our adversaries take advantage of this fact. Today, tomorrow, and for the foreseeable future, malign cyber actors are taking more aggressive and more disruptive actions in cyberspace. Clearly, our national interests are under attack in cyberspace, and the level of risk is growing at an increasing rate as we passively endure these attacks. History is a powerful teacher. One of the timeless lessons is that nations are stronger when they stand together, united collectively against common threats. The emerging cyber threats that we face in our respective homelands are no exception. That is why the United States believes that a more reasoned, sensible approach to these emerging cyber threats includes strong multilateral collaboration. The frameworks among like-minded nations would be the bedrock of that collaboration. Frameworks that enable proactive, risk-informed actions in order to secure and defend our shared interest. Our collective responses will help blunt the actions of malicious actors, strengthen international structures of deterrence, and ultimately reduce the risk of miscalculation by our adversaries. Together as a group of like-minded partners, we have an opportunity to shape our future. As my Navy friends would say, it will require us to stand the watch together and look beyond our own borders in order to see, understand, and defend against cyber threats emanating from around the world. To be clear, the United States stands ready to work alongside our partners and allies to make this a reality. Collectively, with focus and hard work, I'm confident that we will strengthen our collective cyber defenses and be able to deter, disrupt, and defeat cyber threats before they threaten our collective national interest. Again, thank you to the CCD COE for your vision and support. I look forward to continuing the work ahead. We've got a lot of work ahead of us. It's been an honor to join you today, and I look forward to the discussions afterwards. Thank you.